All right, we're live, guys.
Splendid.
Oh. Well, welcome. Welcome,
Welcome
everyone.
everybody. Yeah.
Chris, did you notice anything new in my background?
Let's see. You got the Harley there. The truck's there. There's more lights on. No, what am I missing? The hair's gone.
That's a different Harley.
Oh no shit. They
Yeah,
all look the same to me.
I hit a deer on Saturday.
Oh shit. That's not something you want to do on a Harley. Didn't you say you did that before or something like that?
That's the second time.
What the hell is it? You got suicidal deer around you or something?
Yeah. Depressed.
He's a deer whisperer.
You saw what's going on in the world. If you were a deer, you'd do it too.
Calls him
Kamikaze
in
deer
from
at
a
this
distance.
point.
Come on, I need a new bike.
No shit. Oh my God.
Well, so
I'm assuming you're okay. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here, for crying out loud.
yeah, my wife was on the back and kept it on two wheels miraculously. That bike's in the shop, and then I couldn't figure out how I was going to get home from the Harley dealership. I was about 200 miles away, and I was like, "Fuck it, I'll buy another bike." So I bought another bike. So
what'd you get? Similar one, different one?
Yeah, same one. Well, this one's a little bit of an upgrade. It's an Ultra Limited.
Ooh.
Yeah, right. Heated grips.
Oh,
Nice.
yeah. Okay, those. Yeah, no arguments on those. I remember frozen fingers way too many times in the UK. You just try, especially if you're going fast. Not good.
No.
No, not good.
So yeah, second deer. Yeah, just dumb.
Oh, damn, that sucks. That's
Nothing you can do. Well, then you clip the back end of the deer, broke its hip, and so it was off to the side of the road, and you can't let it sit there, right?
No.
You have to
Yeah,
kill it. So
you got to put it out of its misery. It's the only thing to do.
yeah, and both me and the guy I was with, we both have concealed carry licenses, so it's grab the gun out of the bike and go and finish the deer. That was the most harrowing part of it, actually.
It sucks. I mean, it just totally sucks when you have to do that, because I mean, there's no choice though. I mean, your other choice is let it live. No, there's no life for that. That's
right.
Yeah, that's just
no. It's well, on tonight's topic, that is the ethical thing to do.
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
One of those days today. Before we actually get there, I am going to have a rant. Okay, so I think I put something up on LinkedIn like 20 minutes, half an hour ago about beer. I'm like, tonight's going to be partly brought to you by the beer I put out there. Here's what's pissing me off. Okay, if you guys can see this. Okay, when I am dictator of the world, this shit isn't just going to be outlawed. You'll be taken out and you will be fed to starving gerbils for this kind of shit. You actually want to put this damn bloody, what the hell is this, molten wax kind of stuff over the top of it and make it look pretty and seal it up. A, find a better way of sealing it, because B, when I have to go open it with a knife and I chip off bits of this and I have to chip under it and the stupid thing starts to open and it sprays everywhere and I can't get a damn opener on the top of it and it's spraying all over my kitchen and I'm all sticky and hot and half my damn beer's gone. I'm going to
should have recorded this. This would have been awesome.
And I'm going to kill you.
This would have been awesome. Yeah. We could have made that a security shit show off take.
Oh shit, tell me about it.
Chris trying to open his beer before the show.
Oh my God, I mean, I seriously almost lost a bloody finger as well. I've got a safety knife. The knife I always carry with me is one of the emergency knives. So for those of you that don't know, it's one of those. When you open the damn thing out, you can't actually stab any with it, which is rather useful. Doesn't mean you can't actually hold it like that and do that, but it's immaterial. But it's a safety knife. But I almost took my sodding fingers off with my safety knife trying to open my freaking bottle of beer. And I'm sober. I want to point that one out as well. Apparently, I shouldn't be allowed anywhere near knives or beer.
Right. Yeah, I'm not allowed to play with fire anymore.
Well, and one more deer, and you're not allowed to play with motorcycles either.
Oh shit.
There is that. I give my wife a ton of credit. We hit the deer and she gets back on.
That's awesome.
She was a champ about that, man. We talked about that this morning. She said that actually she wasn't bothered. She said you did an amazing job in handling the bike, and she actually wasn't what she was most disturbed by was memories of your last time hitting a deer.
Yeah, that hurt like a son of a bitch. That one I didn't keep it up because you couldn't. The front wheel came in contact with the frame, and so when that happened,
Yeah, that's you
And
done
the
at
bike
that
stops,
point.
you go over the handlebars.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Physics always getting in the way of a good time.
it totally does. It totally does. Oh man, I don't like physics. I'm actually looking. Where did I put the LinkedIn thing out this morning on the post.
Oh,
So
yeah.
looking for it for a second.
I got that up.
Yeah, there we go. We got it. Oh no, that was
So
something else.
Chris Roberts with a C. Chris. No, sorry.
No, it's with a C. I totally accepted an invite from a Chris Roberts with a K, and I gave him my social security number and my birth date. You know,
Well done, that man. Well done, that man. It's. I mean, if you'd
I
have
thought
given
it
it
was
to me,
you.
I would have done a compare and contrast with what I have on file already. And told you.
If you haven't doxed me yet, well, don't dox me. But if you haven't,
I just went after somebody, poor guy on LinkedIn. So the ethics and I want to call it morel mushroom, ethics and morel mushrooms thing that I put out there. He reposted it, but then instead of like just reposting and leaving it or even putting a couple of comments, the guy put on there like, "Hey, freelance designer available for whatever," and I'm like,
please don't use my comments to sell your shit.
No shit. So I went out to his website for his freelance designer, and it's now redirected to hamsterdance.com.
Uh-oh.
Don't piss off the hacker. I'll change it back at some point in time. Yeah, shit happens. Speaking of which, is that ethical or moral? I'm not entirely certain. It's stress relief. At this point, I'm calling it stress relief.
Fair enough. You know, I thought a lot about that over the last couple of days, you know, as we were noodling on the topic. And one thing that dawned on me is over the history of time, ethics and morals are temporal and cultural.
Yes.
And, you know, I that really changed how I was thinking about, right? Because I started out originally thinking in a very narrow context of what I understood, of what I had as framework. But then I started to think about different cultures, different time periods, how the ethics and morals have evolved over time. And now we're here in this digital realm, right? And it's the real world. You can't touch it per se, but it's the real world. It is as real as the keyboard and the desk in front of me.
It's real implications. I think that's the other part. To me, it's the implication side. You know, to your point, I can reach out to a keyboard or I can reach out to a system, but the implications and the repercussions of doing something in the digital world definitely on a regular basis come back and hit you in the physical world.
Absolutely, they do. I mean, they're so tightly intercoupled. I actually just saw, it was interesting. I saw a post on Twitter of a guy whose dishwasher failed to do the software update and then basically froze. And it went a little something like this. What, you know, dishwasher needs to connect to the internet to get software updates. Why does it need software updates? To address security flaws. Why are there security flaws? Because it's connected to the internet. It just, and I think that's even part of this. Like, you know, there's so many facets to it, culturally and over time. But then you add the digital facet, the global planet facet, and I think that's a lot of what we wanted to talk about right tonight, Chris. Right? Is you know, within our space of cybersecurity, within the powers and abilities that folks in this industry have, where is the line, and who sets the line, and when it's okay to move the line?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the where is the line is always an interesting one. It was somebody actually corrected me a while ago, and it's something I think I put line in some of the things, but there's an argument to say it's a gray area. You know, there is no hard and fast line. It's a gray area. And then there's obviously some which are like, no, it's a hard and fast line. If you step over that line, end of discussion. And, you know, it's a couple of examples we talked about. And I think I put up on here. Let's just pick the easy one that we've had around for as long as we've had our industry, which is the scammers, the 419 scammers. Mm-hmm. You know, there's the 419 Eaters website. There's a bunch of other sites there that actually go after these individuals, do as much as they can to expose them and do everything they can. And, you know, years ago, we're talking 12, 15 years ago now, there was a lot of bunch of us sat around a table and we went after them hard, like hard. We scanned the countries, we scanned the networks, we took down databases, we repatriated money back to a central system, handed it over, the whole lot. I mean, talk about trampling over all sorts of legal issues and everything else like that. But at that point in time, it was so many of people got fed up to the back teeth of people basically stealing, should we want to say a better word. They were like, okay, how do we put a stop to this? How do we at least make some kind of an impact and make some kind of a change, right or wrong as it might be? You know, it's at some point you got to do something, or you just have, you know, yes, you have to educate on one side, but that's still not going to stop it.
Well, I draw the line back to the physical corollary. So if I, as a citizen,
wait, what the hell's a corollary?
It's like a coronary, but with more alcohol.
Right.
All right.
So I draw it back to its physical counterpart. If I, as a citizen, am see a bank being robbed, and I intercept the bank robber, and I take the money away, and I give it back to the bank, I'm a hero. But if I do it in the digital realm, I'm a criminal.
Yeah.
I mean, in full truth, right? If you stop the bank robber and take the money out of their hands and bring it back in the bank, you're going to be on the front page of everything as the hero citizen warrior. And then the cops, law enforcement will come say, don't do that, or whatever that is. But
yeah, you were a fool to stop the bank robber. You got shot and all that kind of good stuff. Yeah, you do it in the digital world at that point in time. I mean, you're trampling over all sorts of CFAA violations, or at least this day and age.
At least that's how they're going to define it in the without any gray.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. And that's the thing. It's like, okay, and that's one instance. The other one was the one I brought up, which was the other week, which was the Rugrat, going walkabouts and not telling parents. And it's like, at that point, it's like, dear Snapchat, sorry for what I'm about to do, but hold on tight and just clench. And in the end of the day, it's like, I'm sorry, I will never not do that to save a Rugrat. Now, there's all sorts of things that can potentially be leveled against, but it's like, okay, ethics and morals, it's, you expand that out to all sorts of, let's take a perfect example, everything that's going on now. We look at all the shit that's going on now around us, and you go, what can we do to help? How can we help? What can we expose? How can we do things? Anonymous put the video out over the weekend, and they had facts and figures in there as to how many individuals had perished at the hands of the law enforcement, unwarranted or whatever. And so you're like, okay, where does that come from? How do they get the stats? Who's putting them together? And then, you look at what's happened to MSP with, their databases, their information and everything else. It's like, where is that line? Is there a line? Has that line already been trampled over? Are we right to continue to trample over that line? Do we have an ethical? Do we have a moral thing? Do we take a step back? Do we get involved? Well, I'm much more... Go on.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, before we get too much deeper in this,
why
don't we give our definitions? Because I think there is some nuance to the definitions of what is ethics and what is morals. Yeah. And so for me, ethics is a collective agreement. It's I don't want to be that guy. I'm not going to do that because that's the wrong thing to do, because we as a group have agreed that's wrong. And morals is more of a personal choice, if you will, of how I hold myself and measure myself against myself. Am I morally right in what I'm doing? Right now, there's the collective morals, but I think that starts to fall apart really quick when you add the nuance and color of culture and time and space, and how we do it here in the States is not how it's done elsewhere.
Yeah.
And so I think you have to take that into consideration when, because I guarantee you we can go to certain places in Asia, in Russia, and other places, and behavior that we would find unethical or unmoral is commonplace.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean,
and it doesn't necessarily make it wrong. And that's where I think the digital piece is so difficult, because digital is global. And we're looking for a unified kind of rule set, if you will, for this global environment. But the players in that environment are local and cultural.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've only got to look at, go back to the scamming go back to the scam side of the world, a lot of the attitude is, if, quite honestly,
if you're dumb enough to pay,
not only if you're dumb enough to pay, if you're dumb enough to have your ass hanging out in the breeze, we're going to take it. I mean, it's nothing more than shopping. It's no different than me going window shopping, down the mall. Then it's no different than them. And you can't really fault that to some degree if that's exactly how the culture has worked, how people have been brought up, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's up to us to hopefully, put a few more controls in place, but that isn't going to happen anytime soon.
So how do you define ethics and morals?
For me, a lot of it comes down to, so the moral stuff is definitely, if I can wake up and look at myself in the mirror, and I think, Evan, I mean, this would be an interesting one for your side. I don't have a single deity endpoint. To me, it's like, okay, I'm always intrigued. I mean, I love this idea. Do I believe there's something afterwards? I kind of do, partly because I'm building my digital self to keep myself going here, but I'm kind of intrigued to see what the hell is next. I'm not eager to get there any faster than I have to, but I'm really intrigued. But to me, it's twofold. It's one, can I wake up in the mirror, look myself in the eye and go, I'm okay with what I did? But it's also that, whether you believe in the pearly gate side of things or not, it's that if you can stand up to the scrutiny of somebody who has, I wouldn't say a higher power, but maybe a more, I don't know, somebody that has the ability to look at you into your soul and go, are you sure you should have been doing that shit? And you can honestly answer that to the positive, then for me, that kind of overrules a lot of things. Yeah. But that's because the moral side of me isn't going to go out and take a car just because it looks cool. The moral side of me is going to be like, no, that shit ain't right. You get your head down, you fucking work your ass off and you buy the car. Mm-hmm. But the moral side of me is going to be like, hey, in the digital world, I see things happening. I'm going to step in. Ethics is a tough one. I mean, let's face it, you are looking at the poster child for doing stupid shit. So we talked about this the other week. It's like, I am not going to hold a candle to anybody else until I put myself out there. I mean, I've put myself out there enough online, and I've done some questionable shit in my time. No two ways about it. I mean, from marriages to divorces to, all kinds of stuff along those lines, to the stupid stuff I've said online and done online. I'm not perfect, but at the end of the day, I've taken my bumps and lumps and bruises. I've learned from them. I've listened to other people, and I've gone, okay, I get where you're coming from. This is why I did this. This is the logic. Maybe I didn't do it the right way. This is why I did it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel that, and speaking of stupid shit, I mean, yeah, I'm with you, brother. I've definitely done, I'm a little more in the background. One of the things I admire about you is you do get out there. I'm a little more, I don't know, not really sneaky, but just, I'm always doing stupid shit, actually, I guess. And for me, morals, the one thing I hate, and it drives me in all the work I do and really everything, it drives the mission, and Ryan knows this. I hate seeing people getting taken advantage of. Period. You stand up for people that are getting, scammed. You stand up for people. You stand up for kids, that are defenseless. You stand up for you protect people that are getting taken advantage of. And then there's this thing called justice, right? So if you take advantage of somebody else, I'm probably going to take advantage of you. You know what I mean? There's the justice component. I didn't start it, but I feel like there needs to be some retribution. And a lot of times it's an internal thing, it's a conscience thing. Like you said, do I sleep well at night? Yeah, I sleep well at night every night.
It's tough
because I feel like I'm doing what's true to myself. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know how I am, I have unfortunately taken it too far a couple of times. I have left nothing more than a smoking hole behind me.
Right.
Part of that's the military side of the world. It's like, what? It's simple. You take them down and you don't let them back up again. End of discussion. simple, 2 to the heart, 1 to the head, or other which way around, depends on what you're feeling like. And unfortunately, that's not a nice way of doing things.
No, but it's
and
effective.
Then you move that, but exactly, and then you move that to the civilian world, and somebody does something, and you've got that balance. It's like, holy shit, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm gonna do. Who's judging me? Am I judging myself? Who else is judging me? Would my peers judge me? Who else is doing it? And that smoking hole is maybe, that's honestly why half the time I joke and I redirect everybody off to hamster dance, because it's hey, I was here. This is what I did. Consider this a warning shot. Don't fuck up again. But it depends on what it is.
Right. It does. It absolutely, I think it's case by case. I think that's one of the things that makes it difficult, why that line moves so much. There's so many different cases where I think you're completely justified in burying somebody.
Yeah.
But then there are other times when, you just don't take advantage of people. And one of the things we were sort of going to talk about this week, and then, the topic changed a little bit due to kind of a lot of the current events, was, what keeps you from being not a bad guy?
Yeah, which this kind of really ties in. Oh yeah, I mean,
for me, it's easy.
Ties it. Yeah,
and I think Evan would agree with this. For me, it's Jesus. Jesus keeps me from being a bad guy, right? My alignment to my deity, my alignment to wanting to follow that moral compass, that example, right? Because it's easy. It's so easy. And
it's the logic on that one, because I don't come from that background by any stretch of the imagination. How would you define that? Is it an internal? For me, I've got the voice at the back of the head that says you don't want to do this shit. I mean, is it literally something like that? Is that conversational?
It is. For me personally, it's a lack of wanting to disappoint. So I don't want to disappoint. I don't want to be, Evan says it this way, and he'll say it even better than I will, but he wants to have done a good job. And for me, I don't want to disappoint. And I don't want to disappoint myself. I don't want to disappoint my family, but my hierarchy starts with not wanting to disappoint God. And then it goes down from there, right? Then it becomes, me as the leader of a family.
And I think one of the misconceptions too is, there's no offense to anybody who doesn't believe in that, right? I mean, I have no ill will towards anybody who doesn't at all.
And honestly, for me, it's the minute you start holding something against somebody, you're deviating from the way it's supposed to be.
Oh, thank you. This to me is, I've known one of my previous business partner, and still a very, very good friend, is extremely spiritual, like absolutely. And I love him to death because that's who he is. It is not imposed upon anybody else. It is not, he is not judging anybody else by the same set of rules. It's who he is. It's by the rules he lives by. It's how he feels and how he thinks and what guides him. And he is such an accepting person of everybody else. And I think that's what I love at the core of religion. And at this point, I'm sure I'd argue, but at the core of religion, I think it doesn't matter what deity, who it is, how many deities you've got kicking over the shoulder. I think that's at the core of almost every single one of them, is like, look, it's that. The problem is, like anything, it all spurns off into, well, if I tell you what to do, and at that point, I'm like, okay, time out.
And religion itself is bullshit.
Yeah.
Religion is a man-made thing, man. It's and just like every one of us, we get that shit all mixed up all the time. And but what keeps my moral compass grounded is, like Ryan's saying, I'm going to die. Period. You are. Well, we all are. And then my belief, and again, I have no. I don't want anybody else to feel like I'm stepping on theirs, because that's not what it's about. But my belief is that when I die, I'm going to stand face to face with Jesus, and he's either going to say, "Well done," or he's going to say, I don't know you, meaning I didn't truly believe in him to begin with. And that's actually ends up being all that I live for, to be honest.
That's fair.
I want to hear "well done." So that's what keeps me moral. I think my version of moral, I think there are different, as we see.
Yeah.
Well, and I'll add to that. So to move it to a more secular thing, all three of us are fathers. What kind of example are you trying to set?
There's that.
You're talking to the guy who sat down with his 16-year-old the other evening, and we were going through the entire drinks cabinet, and we're doing science experiments. I'm teaching him how to mix drinks because
so A,
I know,
I
yeah,
don't
we're
see
having fun with it.
that. B, it's very cultural, right?
Yeah.
So that's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I went to the Netherlands, and they're like 15-year-olds in the bar, and I'm like, something's off. And they're like, no, it's all good. They can drink. They got to leave at 11, but they can drink. I'm like,
right. Yeah. No, you're right, though. It is, you are very much, it's a good point. It is, it's
a huge motivator in my life.
Yeah.
What kind of example am I setting? Am I going to be able to, because whether my son will admit to it or not, and he's 21, so right now it's not, but I set tone.
Yeah.
I lead, I set example, and he's absorbing all of that, right? It's helping. It's not all that shapes him, but it helps to shape him. And so it's always been a driver for me. Don't get me wrong, I love my dad. I have a great relationship with my dad. My dad makes the best friend.
Your dad's funny as hell.
My dad is hilarious. My dad, I can't say half of what my dad says because he's him. But one quality that I appreciated was the man is authentic. Whether you agree or disagree, whether you like or don't like, whether what he just said is awful or not, he's authentic and he's true to himself.
Yeah.
And so I brought that on me, right? I'm a pretty interesting personality, or so I've been told. And so I take solace in the, authenticity of it, right? And I think that ethics is about displaying some of that authenticity. Why do I not behave that way? Well, because I'm trying to be authentic to myself. I'm trying to be true to the guideposts and signposts that I've set up for my life.
All right. So
I'm fired up here by throwing enough fuel on it.
All right. So here's a situation.
Hold on, I got some gasoline.
Oh yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. All right. So here's the situation. I remember how many years ago, probably like 5 years ago, give or take a bit. We were doing a penetration test at a company out on the East Coast, big financial organization. And it was physical and digital. And we'd physically broken in. And this was back in the owl days. So probably like 6-7 years ago, thinking about it. And we'd broken in. We were actually sitting in one of their office suites in the building. We'd taken it over. We'd actually blocked it out for 3 days. And we were sitting in there, and nobody knew about us for literally 2 or 3 days before they actually figured out where we are. I think it was like the end of the second day. I'd had, a couple of the crew who are on would be able to recommend. But by the end of the second day, we basically gotten into everything. We'd actually harvested all of the accounts off of their mainframe, and we'd put them onto like a 2 terabyte USB drive, obviously encrypted and all that kind of good stuff. But we'd harvested it, and that's account details, account names, passwords, user IDs, and balances. We ran this through a sheet, and then when we eventually handed it to the team, they were like, do you know what you have? And we're like, we got a kind of a good idea, a couple of whatever. And they're like, no, it was $46 billion worth of assets on that hard drive. And we all sat back and we're like, holy shit, that's not going out and buying a new Ferrari or going out and buying a house. That's buying an island, pretty big one, and possibly a small navy and a bit of an air force, and certainly enough, special forces folks to keep an eye on shit. And you can walk out and get away with it. And we all sat around the table going, why not? Why aren't we doing that? Why didn't we copy it? Why didn't we do something with it? What's stopping us? Because we've all been through hardship. Let's be perfectly honest. We've all got issues and challenges. I have an ex from hell that I still owe close enough $1 million to because of the shit that I went through with One More Labs. And I signed paperwork I should never have signed. If somebody turned around to me tomorrow and said, hey, look, if you can get into that database over there and hand this information over, we got it covered. We'll take care of it for you. What the hell stops us from doing that? Because I believe me, there are some freaking times, especially with all the stupidity out there, especially the fact I'm sitting on, the research database that a bunch of us have got sitting in Germany. We got billions of user IDs and passwords. I mean, we're sitting on email addresses, user IDs and passwords, and we hand them over to like, have I got been pwned and everywhere like that. There are so many times I'm sitting there, I'm like, why am I not using this? Why don't I clear that dollar? Why don't I clear the X from hell out? And I can actually finally stand up and go, hey, what I'm doing, I'm now doing for me, rather than to dig myself out of this fucking hole. Why am I not doing that? And I don't know.
Well, that's a cool, man. That's going to be a cool, that's going to be a cool journey of self-discovery for you to figure that out. No, because
that's the problem.
Nobody else can answer that for you.
I know.
On why you do it. I can tell you why I wouldn't, but that may not be the same reason.
Well, I want to know. I mean, that's where it's interesting. Is it back to that, the voice in the back of the head that says, hey, not a smart move to make, because eventually when you do pass out, you got to justify what the hell you just did.
So I think there's truth in that. I think there are inherent self-preservation mechanisms because you are aware of consequence.
Yes. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, true.
Here's an interesting one. I get asked this all the time. So you guys are a bunch of hackers. You can do stuff. Yeah. Why don't you just wipe out everybody's debt? Why don't you guys just like reset the system? If you really wanted to do something nice for everyone, just go in and delete all the debt. Just everybody's mortgage is now paid. There's no more credit card debt.
Except for the people we don't like.
Right.
Well, yeah, there we go.
I'm like, we can't do that. And they're like, but you can actually do that. I'm like, but we can't do that. And they're like, yes, but you can actually do that. And I'm like, that's not the point.
Right.
Having the ability to do so doesn't make it right to do so.
Right? Well, right.
Yeah. Can't do. Now, trust me, guys, a million times I've been tempted to be like, and that's not a thing anymore. Right. Yeah. But there's to your point, Chris, there is. And for me, it's I hear it as the voice of God. Some people hear it as conscious. Some people hear it as whatever they hear it. But there's a little thing that goes, really? Right. And it does go back to that work hard comment that you made. I myself don't place a lot of value on things I didn't have to struggle to get. And I don't know if that's true for you guys or not, but if I didn't have to struggle to get there or to get the thing, I don't necessarily value it as much. Just because I don't know. It's just, it's a weird thing about me, but, and so there's a little bit of that for me where it's like, well, I didn't work for it.
That was too easy, basically.
That I have it because I didn't work for it. If someone offered me $1 million, I'd probably tell them to redirect it to charity.
Yeah.
Because I didn't work for it. I didn't earn it. And I'm an earn your keep kind of guy. So.
Yeah. So get to work.
Oh,
shit. What are we doing here on a Thursday night? I should be typing some shit up.
Oh, taking a stress break.
But it also provides like a compass for the company that I run, right? You have a circle of influence that, that you influence.
Yeah.
And it's things that keep us from being, keep us product agnostic. We'll never sell product as long as I'm alive, and control the company. There's also, this thing, I could sell, as a business leader, I could sell the company today, and say, fuck it, I'm selling it to VC. I'm out. You know what I mean? And go get, there'd be millions.
Oh yeah. You get a serious chunk of change.
Yeah. And go sit on a beach and just say, fuck it. But I won't do that because I have employees who count on me. I have employees who bought into this mission. I have employees that I genuinely love. And I won't sit on a beach knowing in the back of my mind that I'm a sellout. You know what I mean? Doesn't matter. There's no amount of money that you could give me that would make me feel okay with being a sellout, that I fucked people over for this.
So is that your ethics or your morals?
I don't know. It's just a thing, to me, I've always thought of morals as being, the right thing. And that's your own interpretation kind of the right thing. And then ethics is more like what your what your herd agrees is the right thing.
Right.
Right. So if you look like a lawyer, if I was a defense lawyer, and I know that my client is guilty, but I also know that I could probably get him or her off. Morally, I would say this guy's guilty, or I would, do a half-assed thing. You know what I mean? Ethically, I'm fucked. I lose my license to practice law.
Right.
This is why I got out of forensics.
Yeah.
This is why I stopped doing forensics, because I would have guilty clients sitting opposite me, and, gentlemen, individuals, women, companies that had child-related material, that had done embezzlement and all that shit, and they were looking for a technicality. Mm-hmm. They were looking to get off because chain of custody wasn't done properly, because maybe the forensics wasn't done, because they wanted me to go up against the opposition's forensics expert and argue that, whatever they did wasn't right or whatever it was. That's why I got out of forensics, because I remember looking across the table and going, literally, your client's as guilty as shit. Why don't you just go up there and plead for them? Oh, no, we have to do A, B, and C. I'm like, then I'm done. I can't do this anymore.
And along these same lines, I was in 2 cases where I was hired by the defense. These were federal crimes. They were intellectual property crimes where Chinese nationals were accused of stealing trade secrets. One was a pharmaceutical company, and the other was some company that made like flotation-y things. And the defense had hired me to give, because the way trade secrets work, if you don't protect it like it's a trade secret, it's not a trade secret.
Right.
So these people, guilty as hell, but is there a loophole? Did the company protect it well enough? Were there gaps in the way they were protecting it? It's the same thing. I will not take those cases anymore. I did fulfill my obligation in both of those. Thank God they both pled guilty. So my testimony didn't end up, really having any effect. But I thought about that long and hard. What happens if, I did get them partially, the things that I did got them off.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they stole things. I'm a patriot. I mean, I love this country, even though the shit we're going through right now, I understand that. I don't understand that. I want to understand that. I'm trying to understand that, but I love this country, and
well, Evan,
hard.
Just to divert for a second. So remember when Jesus went after the one sheep and left the 99 behind?
Yeah.
That's this.
Yeah.
So we got to take care of our one sheep right now.
Yeah.
That's how when I prayed on it, that's what came to me, man. Like what people
are sheep.
You can keep your sheep. I got my mint sauce. I'm chasing that damn sheep. And I'm part Welsh as well, so we don't want to know what we do with sheep. Hey, so this is interesting. Matt, I'm actually sitting on the YouTube session.
Yeah, me too. Yep.
Matt actually brought up an interesting point, which I'm going to go with an ish on that one. So Matt brought up a really good point, which is like, hey, morals and ethics are shaped by your upbringing. I'm going to put a big issue on that one. And here's the logic. One, my father was racist as all hell. If you were black, you were wrong. End of discussion. If you were Indian, you were trying to get something or scam somebody. If you weren't white, then there were problems. And so that's what I grew up with. I also grew up with a father who was a smoker. I grew up with a father who, he and I, for 6 months at a time, wouldn't talk to each other. Military father, military upbringing, all this kind of good stuff. What I learned from him, which might be an argument to your point, is I learned how not to be. So there is an argument to say I did learn from my upbringing, but I didn't exactly learn in the positive way. I learned how not to be. I learned basically not to judge by somebody's skin or any fucking attributes that they have. I learned to judge simply by 2 or 3 things. One, can I trust you? Secondly, if I ask you to do something, will shit get done? And that's not more than that is really all I care about. Anything else is kind of immaterial to me. But if I can trust you, we're in good shape. If I can ask you to get shit done, or you ask me and we get stuff done, it's about as far as it goes. So it was a very different upbringing. I'm interested in what you two guys came through as well.
Yeah, I grew up an only child, 20-year Marine. Mother was a 6-year Marine, grew up on base. I had my first felony at the age of 13. I mean,
you beat me. Holy shit. I got my first ride in a police car when I was 10 or 11, but I didn't get arrested until I was like 14, 15. Holy crap. I thought I was doing good. Nice job.
Well, yeah, thanks,
I
man.
grew up with a rock and roll roadie, and we had a man that lived in our fireplace. And when I told that story at school, they all thought I was crazy because I said we had a man that lived in our fireplace. And they're like, Santa's not real. But no, you don't understand what I'm trying to tell you.
Holy shit. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
So I get it. I came up in a very different kind of, very freedom-based upbringing.
That's a hell. Yeah. Okay. I got, damn.
And my parents didn't believe in any of the things really that I believe in. I was
Mine either. He was raised Catholic, and so I was basically told from day one, like,
you're screwed. Yeah, you're screwed at that point. I mean, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I really kind of formed and I'm still actually forming my morals. I think, I'm learning new shit. I mean, the last couple of weeks have been, they've been very thought provoking, man. I think my worldviews are changing quite a bit, which are good, man. I mean, I want to do right. And so if the shit I've been doing the last, X number of years hasn't been right, well then shit, I need to change. So yeah, I think that morals and ethics are a learned thing.
mm-hmm.
So if that's what you mean by upbringing, meaning, as you're getting older, you're, getting more and more. I agree with that, but I didn't get it from my parents. That's for damn sure.
Well, and John just made an interesting comment in the chat. Experience factors into it as well.
Yeah, big time.
Right.
And I think you're right. The kids thing. I mean, Ryan. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Kids change it.
Trying to, and honestly, the three of us, what's our driver as a parent to be the opposite of the example?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like,
no, you're right.
I'm going to do it different because I don't like the way it was done to me.
Yeah.
And I think that rings true across the whole spectrum. Where do ethics really come from? Why do we have these things? Why do we have morals? Well, because as a society, we collectively agreed that what was good for the tribe was this and what was bad for the tribe was that.
Here's a question to that point, though. So this goes back to the ethics. I mean, if you look at law and look at how law, to your point, I mean, you made the point earlier about a lot of the laws that we see today were set in stone considerably a long time ago. And our world itself has just gone zooming off faster than we can keep up most of the time. And so those boundaries and those legal considerations have almost been left behind. And arguably, and it's an argument, and a lot of people might not agree, to me, that law then becomes flexible. That law, as it's laid down in a book, almost becomes an interpretation. Almost talk like a bloody lawyer at this point.
That's why they call it practicing the law.
Because shit ain't quite all the time.
You're right, yeah. I recently, I'm sure I've heard this before, but I didn't really think about it until recently. Doctors and lawyers practice their craft. They're not experts. They practice. I mean, how many of us have gone to the doctor and you're like, I got this thing. And he's like, well, here, try taking these. Let me know if that works for you. That's what practices you get. So I think there is, in the law, and you guys know you've been in court situations on both sides, as have I, right? You've been, been on the wrong side of that before. It's all how the spirit of the law is interpreted, right? And
especially in the U.S.
And the jury and the judge, and you got all these factors in play. What the judge chooses to honor an objection on, and what he doesn't. Yeah. Is based on his interpretation or her interpretation or their or they or
somebody's bloody interpretation,
whatever it is. Interpretation can affect the outcome of the case. No, that evidence isn't allowed. Why? Because I said so. Right? Well, you hope that person's making an ethical and moral decision, but then you have to factor in what are their ethics and what are their morals. Right. And that does get to the heart of what's been going on the last few weeks.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
And not to diverge too far into that, because that's a different episode. But I think what you're seeing is the mass populace has a very strong feeling about what is right and what is wrong. And
but that's shaped over the last 4 years, 3 years, 3 to 4 years. I was reading, sorry, and we are going to diverge into this because this does come down to ethics and morals to some degree. Perfect example. Let's talk about the Drew Brees thing that was in the news yesterday, today.
Yeah.
4 years ago now, you know, we had one person that took a knee because they didn't believe in the ethics and morals that were being the ethics and morals were being applied justly across every single spectrum.
Right.
And they stood up and said, hey, somebody's got to take, not a stance, but somebody's got to take a knee. And at the time, a lot of people were like, this is bullshit, yada, yada, all the other stuff that went on. Fast forward to today with 4 more years worth of data, evidence, information, intelligence, all the other stuff that we've had, all of a sudden now you've got people who are going, hey, that person 4 years ago, they might have had a freaking point. And so now you have people that are still keeping that same, you know, their viewpoint hasn't changed, but now all of a sudden the mass populace has suddenly gone, actually, might have had a fucking point. You might actually want to reevaluate. And we have that in our industry. It's the same damn thing we see in our industry. 4 years ago, something, you know, chasing down the 419 eaters, was maybe not a good thing. But nowadays it's like, hey, we have got to somehow put a stake in the freaking ground and say enough is enough. Taking advantage of people has got to fucking stop. How can we do something about it?
Well, and we're doing it. Step one, at least, is exactly this. It's talking about it. It's exposing it. I'm going to quote one of the wisest men that's existed in my lifetime, a gentleman by the name of Fred Rogers. He said something powerful. If it is mentionable, it is manageable. No better wisdom, honestly. Think about that for a second. If it's mentionable, it's manageable. Right?
Yeah.
And what have we avoided doing? We've avoided having the hard conversation. Oh, person of color killed by police. Damn, that's a shame. And we move on. Yeah. Person of color killed by police. Damn, that's a shame. And we move on. And we've reached this precipice where we can't move on. We have to have this conversation. And it's ugly and it's rough and it's tough. And it requires a lot of people to stand up and take a stand. You know, I saw all day on Twitter today, oh, gonna lose a lot of followers. Oh my God, really? Like,
who gives a shit at that point?
The nice thing is a lot of those people don't care, right?
Yeah.
They're like, so be it. And the best quote I saw was, I might lose a lot of followers. And actually Evan had liked it. And that's how that showed up in my feed. I might lose a lot of followers, but I get to keep my whole soul.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Right. And so that, you know, I think as we deal with this morals and ethics, because we could be doing more to catch pedophiles. We'd have to cross some lines to do it, but we could be doing a lot more.
Well, and there are people crossing lines to do that.
I'm gonna take the, what am I allowed to plead on this one? The 4th, the 5th, or whatever.
The answer is the 5th. And the correct answer is a security researcher. Makes the best news story ever. A security researcher, right?
Robert,
so, you know, but myself, morally, I'm okay with that. Ethically, I'm okay with that. If you're going to hunt down, find, capture, and prosecute rapers of children, not really going to stand in your way.
And that's
and I know people who are going further than that.
Oh yeah, totally.
Not necessarily going to stand in your way.
In terms of holding them accountable.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
But the challenge on that one is, and again, this is where it gets really hard. And this is, I mean, we know this from the forensics world. If I cross that line, I can't present that evidence in such a way that it will stand up in court. It's like either you have to go the whole hog, literally the whole hog, and drop them off at the pig farm. And then who is to judge? Am I the right person to judge? Or you do it to such a way where, and this is where, you know, my line gets a little fuzzy, you do it to such a point where you can prove beyond reasonable doubt, and then you put it somewhere where somebody else can find it.
And that's exactly the point I was going to make, right? So it can't be used as evidence when you directly present it. But if it winds up in a public forum, well, these things, they happen.
Such is life, and it happens. Exactly. And so that comes back to that. Is it moral? Is it, and can I wake up in the morning and look at myself in the mirror? Absolutely. I got zero problem with it. I have zero problem with that. But I also know, and I love Chris Hagnati. I mean, what he's doing with the Innocent Lives Foundation is absolutely fucking amazing. I mean, I have the utmost freaking respect for him and the team that work for him. But I also know that his stance is every single thing has to be done by the book. Otherwise, there's just no chance. We cannot hand over, and it costs them a lot of money to put these damn things together. We cannot hand it over and expect a prosecution. And then you get into the vigilante side of the world. It's like, okay, at what point in time does that vigilante take it too far? We're back to the, fuck it, I'll take it far enough. If I got to put them in a pig farm, I got no problems doing it. As long as I can take it 100%. But then I shouldn't be, back to this, as a digital world, we then become judge, jury, and executioner.
Right.
And
that's not okay either, right?
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
There needs to be, due process exists for a reason, right? We can't just use our powers and they are powers. I mean, a matter of fact, number one thing I'll tell any middle schooler when I'm given a talk about why to do this job, because it comes with superpowers. Like, why not? Like, it goes with superpowers. It's amazing. Yeah. You have a mastery over something that is mostly misunderstood by the entire planet, right? And we all know the ones and zeros are just ones and zeros. I can reorganize them.
Oh, yeah. It's fun to reorganize them, let's be perfectly honest.
What's in your bank? My favorite that I tell people is, if you think that the database view you get of your bank account is an accurate reflection of the current state of that account, you got nothing coming. Because at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday, your bank account says 0 because all your money's been transferred overseas for currency exchange.
Oh yeah, exactly.
When I log in, I promise it's going to tell me every penny's there.
Yeah.
Right. So
that's a really good point.
And I think that's actually part of the problem that we have with trying to establish what our ethics and morals within this industry need to be, is a general misunderstanding of the general populace who can help guide us on what that acceptable behavior needs to look like. Because a lot of this we're doing in a vacuum because we don't have the buy-in. We don't have the understanding from the general public like other industries do, right? A lot of what we do is considered magic.
Yeah. Yeah. It is so, and especially with more and more tech coming into play. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just, my daughter, we was joking with my daughter today, and we were playing the game, and it's a really interesting game. We were playing the game of What If, because she was saying something, and I'm like, okay, I'll just turn the internet off. And she's like, I'll use my phone. I'm like, okay, I can Faraday this house in about 30 seconds. She's like, I'll go use Nextdoor's network. I'm like, okay, I have their passwords for Nextdoor. Don't tell them, but I have Nextdoor's passwords. I got no problems restricting you from that. And you escalate. It's the escalation game. And at some point in time, somebody's going to lose, and and it gets ugly. I mean, it gets ugly at that point in time. You talk about, well, I'm going to just drive somewhere. Well, I can disable your car. And it's really interesting because you suddenly realize as you go down this route, to your point, the capabilities that we have. And somebody just said it. Where is it? John just said it. With great power comes great responsibility. And it's I love the demotivators. Absolute power rocks. Power. What the hell is it? Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts. Absolutely.
Power corrupts. Absolutely.
And I'm just like, yeah, it's really cool sometimes.
Right.
Well, I remember just some of the silly shit, in my youth. Right. Blue screening the instructor. Teacher's trying to teach class, and I've got a background set to be a blue screen, and I've hid the icons on their desktop. This is not hacking, by the way, in case you people want to know. It's called configuration. You just go in. Right. But I remember, that screwed up class for like a good 10 minutes. The dude was just mad. He's rebooting. It wasn't working. I don't understand what's going on. Right.
Yep.
And yes, in that moment, I sat there wringing my hands like, ha, 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 I have done this, right? But as we mature, we realize, it's not right, because what I worry about is we don't set some boundaries. What curious kid is going to take over autopilot because he's running somebody else's code and he doesn't fully understand what it does? And it just the likelihood, I saw a great article says, more hackers needed. I agree. However, we best start setting up some guideposts and some signage on this information superhighway. I made the comment, I don't know if it was the last one or the one before, but I made the comment that, it's the information superhighway and everybody's drunk driving the wrong direction.
That was perfect. I mean, that literally needs to be on t-shirt, on stickers, on all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
So, and in that same vein, ethically and morally, I think there's a lot of really good folks out there that are trying to do the right thing, but maybe crossing the line. I think there's bad folks out there that don't care a line exists.
Yeah.
And do we have enough of the right equipment, the right tools, and the right rules of engagement? Chris, you've heard this. I think you've even said this. We have to follow all the rules all the time. We have to be right every time without fail. The bad guy only has to be right once, and they have no rules.
Yeah, exactly. That's the bane of a blue team, of anybody that's defending a company. Is just they cannot afford to be wrong. I mean, that's the frustration.
So I'm going to grab a beer, but while I do that, I want you to think about this, because I want to unpack this one.
All right.
Hacking back.
Oh, bless. That's on the agenda for several senators and God only knows how many people on this planet at the moment.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's a whole nother episode too.
Vey, tell me about it. Whose turn is it next? Is it your turn or is it Ryan's turn next?
It's Ryan's turn.
Oh man, that actually has.
I turned for what? What did I do? I didn't do it.
It's your turn next. I think that has.
We just hacked you, but we just hacked you back.
Oh, great. That's what I get for leaving the room.
Good night.
All right. Yeah. Left my keyboard unattended. That's what happens. So here's my take on it.
Yeah.
We do it. So first, let's establish the fact that this happens every single day.
Yep.
Okay? It's classified. You don't get to hear about it. But every minute of every day, somebody is hacking back.
Yep.
So we've got an established precedent in the context of national security that it's an acceptable thing. And nobody argues about the morals or ethics because freedom, USA, right?
Oh, right? So, yeah, okay.
But when you get to the corporate side, and I'll let you unpack the don't get me wrong, I'm a full supporter of our troops. I'm a full supporter of our military. And if anybody really understood what it takes to keep a nation state safe, they'd probably get sick to their stomach. Having said that, where that diverges for me, because I'm actually in support of nation state hackbacks, but where that diverges for me is where it gets into corporate hackbacks, where it gets into companies attempting to take on. Because first off, you don't really know who you're going after anyways.
Thank you. Thank you.
No idea what you're doing.
Yeah.
Number two, you're a business and you just cross the line into warfare. So I don't know that that's, I don't myself believe that it is ethically or morally right for a private business to engage in that behavior. I do think there is some place for that within the confines of national security and law enforcement. Like, for example, if you hack a pedophile's computer.
Oh, well, here's all the data on Pastebin. Shame you can't find it. P.S. Right. Look here.
Right. Well, you got this nasty video that we happen to embed with malware so we could, expose you on the dark net.
We don't do things like that, surely. Do we? No, we don't ever put canary tokens and shit in things. No, we wouldn't dream of doing stuff like that.
It goes further than that.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh. All right, Ev.
What?
So, go on, Ryan. That's not Ryan. Go
That's
on.
all I'm going to say.
Yeah, it goes a lot deeper. All right, so here's an intro. So, actually, I think this is almost an episode on its own. My biggest frustration and the biggest difference between the .mil/.gov side of the world and the .civilian side of the world is attribution.
Right.
And that's probably the biggest difference. If I'm working and I have done occasionally, shall we say, on behalf of an entity.
Soup.
There we go, an alphabet. Thank you. Yeah, an alphabet soup. If I'm working on behalf of an alphabet soup, my not even moral or ethical, my compass, end of story, has to be 100% certain, not just that the right hands were on that keyboard, but who the person was, what their morals and ethics were to attack the systems that we are maybe investigating. I have to be 100% certain that that came from Korea or from China or from Japan or wherever it came from.
And attribution is hard as hell.
Oh, unfucking deniable. Because I can get it to the right keyboard. I can actually, and this is where it gets really interesting. And we'll get to some stuff that is on the edge of classified, but not completely. Here's a little dirty little secret. We're all using the same tunnels that everybody else is using.
Really?
So the jump boxes that we're all using, our friends in other countries are using. It's spy versus spy. It's like, oh, I didn't see the fact that they were there as we walk through that next jump box.
Right.
And the challenge then becomes, even if I can pinpoint that it's that keyboard, it's my keyboard was the one that launched the attack against X. Number one, whose fingers were on those damn keyboards? And then number two, what pressure, what ethics, what morals, what was that? Why did they do it? Only if I can figure that shit out effectively can I put a JDAM in their back garden.
Right. Well, and let's be honest for a second, the ethics of, as far as they're concerned, they are operating ethically and morally.
Totally. This is war. I mean, we're at war. If anybody has any fucking questions on this one, we are at war.
Yeah. World War III started and the internet caused it. So,
oh my God, absolutely, yeah. We're at it.
We're at that mutually assured destruction piece, right?
Well, and that's it.
It's not like it's.
Right. Oh, it is. I get
it's not like it's reckless, taking down power grids, blah blah blah. We're in a standoff.
The code's there. The code's already there. If you think Russia hasn't rewrote every Siemens controller in the United States of America 2 to 10 times over,
yeah, because we've done the same to them, and the Chinese have done the same to them, and they've done the same to us. Yep. And you're right. We're at the 1980s. You remember the war? Who was it? Frankie Goes to Hollywood.
Yep.
Yeah.
We are mutually assured destruction to the nth, to a certain degree. And you're right, nobody's going to push that freaking button because nobody's dumb enough.
Right.
Well, let me take that in context.
The Russians are close. They're close to being dumb enough.
Yeah, we might actually be in the lead of some of that to some degree. We actually, let me phrase this, the royal we. There are certain people who thankfully would have the ability to maybe block some of that or at least put some injection points in place. But anyway, that aside, politics aside for a second, I think you're right. The problem is with the businesses, they don't have that capability. Right. They don't, and the problem is the intelligence necessary to understand it. That's where I absolutely love working.
Well, right. Is it, you're busy chasing Israel as part of a larger attack that's actually supported and sponsored by us, but we're executing out of Uzbekistan because we need to, I hope I'm not giving away any secrets.
It's actually more fun to blame North Korea. It's so much fun to run in and out of the servers there because it's fun.
Be showing up on the map way more than it should. Just saying. What's going on over there? Nobody knows.
Do they have computers in North Korea?
One or two.
We
put some of that just to blame them. It was easier that way.
So you can hack my machine with a Windows 3.1 machine?
Oh man, yeah.
Interesting.
Oh dear, bless them.
Well, and then Chris, you actually touched on an interesting point, which is false attribution for the purpose of political.
Yeah.
There's that.
Yeah, just and that's this is where it's getting nasty. One of the things I was investigating these last couple of days.
What's going on?
I'm working with some people, we'll leave it at that at the moment, on all the crap that's going on at the moment. We just had one, National Guard. National Guard are getting called out to quell this riot. It appeared on a forum, 2,000 people turned up. We ended up tracking back not just the leaflet that got produced, but the messaging architecture to our friends over in the Soviet Union. We sent them a wave and a hello and a few other things. But that's where it came from. And you're like, and at that point, it's like, how the hell do you tell 300 million Americans, don't turn up at this damn thing because it wasn't us?
Right.
And how do you tell them effectively? And honestly, to 300 million Americans, how the fuck are they ever going to trust us?
Right. Well, especially given the media crap and all that other stuff. I mean, what avenue would you use to get the message out?
I'm done. I'm out. I don't know. That's the problem. I don't know. I don't have a good answer.
Well,
yeah, I don't either.
I don't necessarily have a good answer, but the way I'm investing my time is one human at a time, making them personally responsible for their own cyber risk through conversations, I don't know how else to do it.
No, I thought it was Chris's reaction. He's like,
well, because he knows I'm not wrong, and he knows it's the hardest thing you could possibly do because there's billions of people on this planet, and we got to tap each one of them on the shoulder as an individual and go, hey, by the way, you got 5 minutes for me to talk to you about your cyber risk?
Well, it's the same, and it's the same advice I gave to my wife this morning because she feels kind of helpless and everything. I said, focus on your area of influence. We all have different areas of influence, right? My area of influence is the companies I lead, my friends, my family, and that's probably about it, right? I'm not going to change the world, but I can change the world one person at a time, right? So you're right, man. Work with that area of influence. Hopefully your message resonates enough with them that they'll take it onto their area of influence, and they'll take it onto their area of influence.
I'm trying to get the old Pantene commercial, and they told two friends, and they told two friends, and they told two friends. You guys are old enough to remember that one, aren't you?
Yeah, look what Pantene did to my hair.
Yeah, great.
Same thing. Yeah, it ain't happening.
By the way, Pantene, we don't really mean it. Thanks. Please don't send us. I think that because it is that personal thing, because as soon as we start, when we talk ethics and morals, we start talking personal, individual, and it directly ties back to risk and behavior, and and it becomes this multifaceted thing really quick. But I believe as a group, we have enough of the right people that we could start to establish some baselines for our industry. That we could, besides the outdated and poorly worded CFA.
Yeah, CFA is, sorry, it's like a firewall. It's like, bye now.
Well, it's poor. It was.
Oh, it's terribly put together. Yeah, but again, it's
out of date legislation. That's all. I think there could be many addendums and amendments made to it to make it more meaningful. But that takes the politicians wanting to care. You know how that thing came into existence. A bunch of people ran around with their hair on fire and said, cyber, 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 somebody do something.
And these are the same politicians which are advocating companies hacking back.
Which is a terrible idea, by the way. Please do not bring about the digital apocalypse because, Woolworths decides that it's a good idea.
It's like, okay.
And I don't know if there's maybe there's a listener young enough to not know what Woolworths is, but
yeah, and anybody. I don't care who it is. If any kind of institution got their ass handed to them, first and foremost, they need to go look in the mirror and go, why did we get hit? What can we do better before they start blaming everybody else? That's my biggest frustration is quit looking to blame somebody else. Yep. Look in the damn mirror and go, what could I have done differently?
Oh, 100%. I actually made a comment to my friend that we were joking around about, running the world, right? If I was the dictator.
Yeah.
He goes, well, how would you make things different? I said, oh, it's real simple. I'd bring about election reform in the case where the American public funds it. You get 150 grand to make your case. All media must let you air your commercials for free or they don't get their FCC license. And the minute you say something negative about the other guy, instead of what you're going to do right, you're out of here.
And everybody gets a Harley.
I don't want a Harley. Can I have like a Cagiva or a Ducati? I don't get me wrong. I love this country, but I really like the Italian. Right. Just the sound of those engines is, yeah.
Because it comes down to that accountability, right? Our system lacks accountability.
And that's, again, you go back to the challenges that we have today, the issues and the stuff that we're seeing in so many cities. it's down to, it's not all down to accountability, but a huge chunk of it is down to accountability.
And I think too
and
that
roles and responsibilities. I mean, most people don't even know what their role is, what my responsibilities are, so they don't even know what they're supposed to be accountable for. And then some of them that do know what to be accountable for don't give a shit. So it's like,
well, and that's because they're not held accountable. So even if they know they're accountable for it, there's no mechanism to hold them accountable. You know, and to a certain degree, there needs to be some better transparency about the current state of the cyber war, because we keep telling people not to click links, which is great, except we're not telling them the main source.
Right.
We're not having the conversation that says, by the way, countries are actively trying to disrupt our society, and they're using social media, and they're using scams, and and we're doing it right back to
we've oversold that. They take that as a fear thing, and we've oversold that.
It's not.
We've oversold that to sell.
Statement,
but that's how they interpret it. They interpret it as a fear thing because so many times we've taken advantage of that to sell them more shit.
Right. And I don't blame the marketing people. I get it. You heard from some security guy that was the thing to say, so you put it in the brochure. But
here's the challenge. And so, you know, I think I can remember what the statistics are. Somebody can correct me on this one. I want to say it's like 160 or 180 elections can be identified as having been manipulated globally. The US,
by one company, they made a documentary on Netflix about this.
I haven't seen that.
Don't do that. The Great Hack.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, really gotta watch this. It's called The Great Hack, and it's all about Cambridge Analytica using psychological.
This is no. This goes back even further. This is further than that. Yeah, if you look at the Wikipedia's got it floating around somewhere. If you look at election hacking and election influencing, and you look at all the elections across the globe over the last like 20, 30, 40 years or whatever that have been influenced, in other words, that somebody says actually somebody's other fingers were in it, the US, leads the path on that one. We're at like 100 and something odd. Our friends over in the Soviet Union are closing in on us with like 50 or 60 or something like that. And they're obviously taking the lead because we're dumb enough to let them at this point.
Yeah, but you're pronouncing it wrong. It's pronounced regime change.
At the moment in this country, it's getting close to that.
Right? I mean, it's...
Oh, I know.
But you're right. And that's another thing. That's another ugly ethical, moral truth we need to confront. While we love to be the shining star, you do realize we do things. We, as a nation, we have to do things.
Always have.
And some things we don't have to do, but we do them anyways. I just had a conversation with a friend of mine about this. We were talking about ethics and morals. So we were talking about the current state of affairs. And I said, but you realize that the cocaine dealer in the neighborhood is a patriot. And they said, what do you mean? I said, well, he's selling the CIA's coke. And the proceeds are going back to the CIA. So he's a patriot.
Yep.
So why are you raiding his house?
Yep.
Right. And they're like, what? And I'm like, oh yeah, let me point you to these facts in history.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so, you know, there's some harsh realities that I think we as a people need to confront.
I don't know how okay, so here's the other question. And this comes back to, you know, if we stood up and said, look, not only have we meddled in everybody elections, but so we're getting our elections are getting meddled with. Mm-hmm. And by the way, our machines are also susceptible, they're a mess and everything else. How do we effectively get that message out? Because back to the morals and ethics, you know, we all joke about, you know, influencing an election, but from an ethics standpoint, it wouldn't take much to go and screw with a couple of key states' election systems. Let's be honest, it wouldn't take much. We know we can do it. DEF CON's Hacking Village, Voter Hacking Village has shown it and demonstrated.
There's how-to videos on YouTube.
Right, exactly. We know we can do it. We know we have the capability. We know we have the ability to do it. But how do we educate people? How do we help them understand that? And will they? And the other question is, will they listen en masse, or do we have to go to the one-on-one tap on the shoulder?
It's a one-on-one tap on the shoulder until we get enough, just like the current situation. It's a one-on-one tap on the shoulder until we get enough people that it starts to become that dinner table conversation.
Yeah.
And this is why I take
because which megaphone would you use? Which megaphone do you trust?
My own.
Yeah.
My own. And safety. It's all about safety. People don't understand security. They just don't. It's ethereal to them. Safety is biologic. Safety is something that they can grasp onto. So I try to use language that resonates. I try to meet them where they are. Right. One of the things I'm thinking about right now is how am I going to talk to my senior community about this? How do I engage them?
Yeah.
Right. And it's just it's such a personal thing, and what I've been preaching for years, and I hope it eventually catches on. And anybody listening today, please take this. If it resonates with you, take it, use it, and spread it. But I believe that digital safety, aka cybersecurity awareness, is a foundational life skill. If you're gonna live in 2020, you need to know this. It's like not touching the stove when it's hot.
Yep.
It's that foundational. And I appreciate that we failed a generation, and I take personal responsibility as a professional in this industry for failing you as a generation. I gave you an iPhone. I gave you no tips on how to use it safely. I'm sorry for that, right? But that's where we got to go back to. We got to go back to the basics. We got to go all the way back to the starting line and say, this has a direct and meaningful impact on your life. It impacts your elections. It impacts your finances. It impacts your education. It impacts your privacy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And here's like no more than 8 things that I need you to do, because people don't want a laundry list.
I agree with the generation thing. I absolutely agree with that. Because we have charged into this digital age with narrowly a care about us. We continue to embrace all of these wonderful things, again, with a care about us. You know, and I just, this comes back to the altruistic. So, I mean, I have a botnet. I got a botnet running over in Africa, and it's been running over there for a number of years. And a bunch of people know about it, and it's out there. And 2 of us have access to the source code, myself and one other individual. We've actually split the keys so that neither one of us can be done on it. And it does nothing more than infect computers. And it's at a couple of million. It's like 2.1, 2.2, 2.3 million computers. And its job is to sit at the BIOS level, sit on memory, fragmentation itself, and stop those machines from being attacked. Because I got to admit, I gave up. I gave up trying to talk to people. I gave up trying to get people to understand. I've had to apologize. I had to apologize a couple of years ago. I was over at Cyber Week in Israel, and I had to apologize to the Nigerian Navy because apparently some of those folks actually end up getting their computers infected by it. And I'm like, did anything else happen? They were like, no, it actually did a really nice job, but we don't want your code on our computers. And I'm like, sorry, protect your shit. Yeah.
Yeah, my bad.
But it's one of those where, I mean, it sits there. It does what it does is infects the system and stops them from being used to infect anything else. And it's a nice piece of beastie. And I just got to the stage where I'm like, I'm happy with altruistic hacking. I'm actually happy. I can look myself in the mirror and go, if I can protect people, if I can, especially almost against themselves to some degree. Absolutely. Because again, I hand you all this technology. I don't give you any instructions. I don't teach you how to keep yourself safe. And I expect you to ask the questions. And by the way, I have this 1-800 tech support number that never gets really looked after. It sucks. And so I don't know how we do a better job. I really don't. I'm at a loss.
By involving our others. We can't do this job.
Right.
Okay? We just can't. We aren't. What we can do, and you're seeing this play out today in the all the events and things that are happening right now. The group affected is not able to affect change on their own.
Right.
They need allies and advocates and agents of support. And it's no different in what we're dealing with. We as an industry are going to be unable to affect this change by ourselves. We have to have the buy-in of the PTA, of the AARP, of the Lions Club and the Rotary Club and the on and on and on and on. Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, you name an entity, Boys and Girls Club, right? We need the buy-in of those organizations to make this a priority. Matter of fact, I'm going to be talking to YMCA next week about that very thing.
Nice.
You run a summer camp. You know what you're not teaching? What I need you to be. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right? And by doing that, by embedding it, because it's embedded in our lives.
Yeah.
Right? Every bit of our lives today has technology embedded in it somewhere.
Oh, and it's getting more. I mean, I gave a talk in Oslo, remote in Oslo last week, and earlier this week, whenever it was, and I'm talking. I mean, I was hacking, the little pills that you can put in that do all the tracking. I'm hacking those. User ID administrator, password administrator, gets me into every single embedded pill that's in people, and I'm like, this is splendid. Now, what can I do with this? And it goes on and on and on and on.
Well, and interestingly enough, with what you just said about that, I would challenge that as a class 3 medical device, that it did not pass the muster of an appropriate FDA class 3 medical device risk assessment.
Right.
And do you know why? Who at the FDA specializes in cyber? Oh, that's right. They don't. They're doctors.
Right, exactly.
Oh, okay. Did it kill them when they swallowed it? No, they were good.
It works. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it. Us is we're happy.
Right. And because in a previous life, I worked on a class 2 cloud-based medical device product.
Nice.
So I got to get intimately familiar with that medical device assessment. And
it's
the problem is actually not even rooted in poor coding. It's rooted in poor approval.
Right. We're running into that with the nanotech stuff. We've been hacking the nanotech stuff again recently, and it's just like works brilliantly until you reverse engineer and you use it when it shouldn't be used. Now, like, why would you do that? Because I can kill people.
Right.
Well, who would want to do that? I don't know. Pick a nation state.
To start, or just a nutbag.
Just somebody with a laptop. And I think that's the other challenge we've run into. Back to the Frankie Goes to Hollywood. In order for me to actually do something nasty and nefarious, I literally had to have the big red button. Nowadays, I need half a dozen people around a room with a bottle of whiskey and a laptops, and that's it.
Right. Cool. Good talk, you guys.
Yeah.
It's good shit.
Hopefully
I observed a lot tonight.
Yeah, hopefully people found it enlightening. I don't know.
Yeah, I hope so.
Now I'm going to go hack some shit.
I'm already working on it. There's a bunch of us that are, go back to today's troubles and the stuff that we're dealing with at the moment. There's a number of us from various teams that are working on, what we're actually doing is we're separating legitimate protesters and leaving them the hell alone and taking the ones that are actually trying to basically elevate it into something that it isn't. We're identifying them, we're pulling camera footage, we're pulling all sorts of other footage, we're cross-referencing it, and we're stopping them before they get there. We basically pulled over half a dozen buses worth of people in the last 24 hours.
That's good shit.
That's good. Keep
just
doing
continuing
that,
to. Oh yeah, I mean we're getting into camera systems and all sorts of other shit, doing all sorts of visual, facial identifications, the whole fucking lot, deliberately. Because I got no problem. I want protesters to actually have their voice, but I don't need all the other shit that goes with it.
Exactly.
Right. Well, freedom of speech isn't freedom to destroy, but the people speaking aren't the ones doing the destroying, and we know that it is other. That goes all the way back. The first time I saw it, and I'm sure it happened before that, but the first time I saw it was when Baltimore was having their issues.
What issue? They're still having their issues.
Well, they are. But this was round one.
Not was.
When I saw gang members lock arms of opposing gangs and stand between the police and the protesters and say they're not from here, I knew there was a problem.
Yep.
And being, I'm 10 minutes away from the epicenter. Okay. It's a 10-minute drive from my house right to the middle of what's going on in this town. And, I assure you that the people in that community did not do that. That, I was joking, but also part serious. There's no man that's dating a woman who's going to go home and admit to burning down the Target. It's just not going to happen. Right. There's no way. It doesn't make sense to destroy their own local businesses. And so clearly there's outside forces. And it sounds like, Chris, the work you're doing, you're finding and catching these people. So that's keep it up, dude.
Working on it, because again, actually what really hit it home for me, I reached out, I mean, as soon as all this crazy shit went down, I reached out to a bunch of friends and said, hey, anything you need, what can I do? I've got your back. You already know I have your back, but I'm kind of reaffirming it. And an amazing good friend of mine reached back out to me, and he was like, hey, thanks for the voice. I went to school with the individual in question. I'm like, oh, fuck. And he went to school with Jordan. And I'm like, oh, you gotta be fair. So he and I talked for a while, and that hit me last week over the weekend. And so I then got hit up by a bunch of folks on the SF teams, and they're like, we've got a few folks standing by who want to take care of their brothers. What do you? And so it's been a ridiculously coordinated effort, and the hacker of the team basically is just handing them intel left, right, and fucking center.
Right. Here, go snap this group up.
But the flip side is as well, it's also providing a voice in the dark for the disinformation, because there is a shit ton load of disinformation out there.
Oh my God. From all sides. Would y'all just stop it already? I got garbage flying in from the left, garbage flying in from the right.
Well, they're not going to stop it, right? It's propaganda.
No. And that's the challenge. I mean, there's physical propaganda that's being left and being put down and all sorts of stuff. There's digital propaganda. So I'm getting this stuff inbound. And honestly, part of my job is playing whack-a-mole with some of this stuff to go, nope, yes, maybe, nope. And it's just, yeah, I don't know. I have a good answer. Back to the morals and ethics. It's like, this feels like I put a post out and I'm like, my job is better I'm more dangerous behind the keyboard than I am standing in line getting sunburned and shot at. I've used being shot at. I'm much more useful. I'm much more dangerous on a keyboard these days.
Well, and I think we all have a role to play, right? Whether that role is out there in the street, whether that role is behind the keyboard, whether that role is in the halls of justice, in Congress and Senate, as people that, write a letter. By the way, if you inundate your politicians with letters, believe it or not, they're supposed to do something about that. They're supposed to, and when they don't, you just don't reelect them. We have to use the power of the vote. We have to use the power of togetherness to get through this.
Ask any politician what their number one job is.
Re-election.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They don't give two shits about what you think if it's not going to get them reelected.
That's where I have a huge amount. I mean, so Josh and a bunch of the guys over at I Am the Cavalry, I have both a huge amount of respect for them, and I would never want their job in a million years. And we've gotten a little sideways a couple of times because I am back to that, fuck it, I'm just going to go do it. But to give the cavalry guys a shit ton load of kudos, they are the ones that go to DC, that go to Washington, that go up against all the legal teams, that go up against the senators, and they're pushing through reform as often, as best as they can do. I mean, it's amazing to watch them. I know I couldn't do it. I don't care. I just couldn't do it. I'd be there with the fucking tasers and the bombs. They are just doing it the right way.
Yeah. Well, it's good. We want to keep you out of jail so we can keep doing the security shit show.
People seem to like it, so we'll keep doing it.
Yeah, there's some interesting. We actually got a comment about doing basically, where is it? There was are there any mentors? Yes, there are a ton of people mentoring. Even if it's just reach out to us, we'll answer questions. No issues about it. But 100%. Somebody hit hey, can somebody show us, where is it? Ahoy, Dave, show us normals. Bless your cotton socks. We're all normals in one way. Something, we'll have fun. Show us how to hack something.
Did you read my book? So we had the security people and the normal people.
The normal people. Yeah. We need to do something like that. We actually need to. I'm up for doing basically a live.
We can do a live demo.
We'll do a live demo, but it'll be a tame demo. It will be something that's sitting behind us. Let's not. Although it might be fun actually to make the lights blink in DC again. That was fun. Actually, we did LA. They made all the lights in IoT, so we actually wrote the programs to basically send rude messages to the space station. So much freaking fun.
Well, somebody here in Minneapolis hacked the traffic signal to, when it was the don't walk sign to be the middle finger.
Oh, oops. Those are fun. We actually, we did it. We were on exercise.
Than people think.
We were on exercise and we were on a base and we did this. We took out the traffic signals. And we actually had, because of the hacking of the cows and shit that we did with all the farm machinery, we had a cow walking across this thing. I mean, we were kicking up, but the 1-star in charge of the base didn't find quite as much humor in it.
I've seen a few people change the voice prompt to change your password.
Oh yeah, man, we need to do something fun.
Well, we'll do something. And guys, the listeners, whoever's listening, right? Give us topic ideas. Like we've got lots of ideas, that we think we want to do, but we want to hear from you too. We want to know, what do you want to hear us go after, think about, talk about?
Shoot RF at the tornado sirens.
Another night, I'll tell you guys about a story where I got my hands on a tornado siren.
Oh, yeah.
It's better. We had a tornado siren, and then we had a glass cover from a radio tower and a strobe light.
Ooh, okay, that would have been fun. You know what we need to go after? And I've thought about this a few times, but I've not done enough digging. I really want to go after the emergency broadcast system.
So I got a packet over here in the corner on how to hack the presidential alert system.
That's the one I want. I want that one. I want that one. I want to do some research on it. Again, it's time. It's freaking squirrel moments. And
you got to build gear for that one. That one, you got to break out the soldering iron. You got to.
I figured as much, but there's got to be, we need to, I mean, could you imagine doing that right about now?
I'm just glad most people don't know how to do it. To be perfectly honest, I'm glad that it's a legit heavyweight research paper, and if you have no idea what you're looking at, you have no idea what you're looking at. So I
have seen a ton of stuff on the SDRs. You look at the SDRs being used in Chicago. And again, do you see the K-pop thing? Again, I love
that. Was fantastic. Chris, is that a form of hacking?
Yeah, absolutely. To me, that's where the ethics and morals. To me, I'm like, I love you guys for doing this. Keep doing it. Yeah, I love the idea of doing that. I think that's, to me, it's, I wouldn't say level the playing field. I'm not entirely certain, but I mean, there's some things that should not rise to the surface. And I think, I think anything that can be done to help that effect, again, it's that getting up and looking in the mirror and going, to your guys' points, to both of you, your voice has got a name. My voice is just, it's one of several voices in the head, and it's the one voice. I mean, part of my background is Taoism, so you guys are fairly easy. You've just got one deity to worry about.
Right.
From a Taoism standpoint, I got 3,000 of the buggers I've got to deal with. So there's a lot of shit going on. But even if you, I know, tell me about it. But that's just, there's a bunch of things. But even aside from that, if you take the mentality of, I look at this life as a learning lesson, and I'm like, okay, if I get a chance to do a redo, what did I learn? What did I understand? What do I need to do again next time around? That ethics and morals thing, I think, is a huge part of it. It's like, okay, it's back to that again at the end of days when I am worm food or looking at the dirt from the wrong side up. I do want to be able to stand up and defend my position. I want to be able to stand up and go, look, I know I screwed up. I know I've done some stupid shit in my time, but I learned. And I don't have a regret for what I've done because I felt everything I did was for the right reason.
Well, and I think you hit the nail on the head, man. I mean, that's a moral compass.
Yeah.
Well, and I'll kind of close out with this. A lot of bad stuff happened in the old-timey days, right? Okay. And so I'm not by any means suggesting we go back to the old-timey days.
So you're talking like 2015?
No, I'm talking like 1815.
Oh, that old-timey.
That old-timey days.
There was a self-policing of community.
Yeah.
Okay.
True.
There was a moral and respect and these things. Now, they were not applied equally. That's a problem. We need to address that fully. I don't want anybody to read into what I'm saying. But there was an accountability. And if you had that guy in the neighborhood that was messing with the kids, well, that guy, he just came up missing. He moved. We don't know what happened to him. He's just not here anymore. right? And I'm not advocating anyone, take the law into their own hands, but there was I believe at least more of a community approach to controlling that type of stuff. And I think
but God help you if you were a minority in that community.
Oh, and that's my point. I'm saying that's terrible. Yeah. That is not what I'm trying to replicate, but I would like to see more of a community participation of accountability with all that we've learned since then applied, and what we have yet to learn applied, right? But there was very much you just didn't do it because you didn't do it. And then we embrace this individualism culture, which is why I think we have a lot of the problems and challenges we do, because it's all about me and mine, and I don't care what happens to you and yours. And so you see now what happens when we don't care what happens to others, right? When we don't take these things serious, when we don't come together.
You're opening up another can of worms, man.
Yeah, well, actually,
humans. Everybody should be equal as humans, I guess.
That's an interesting one. Will just brought up a really good point, which actually, again, for the military side of the world, we always had the buddy system.
Yep.
It wasn't just, I didn't have to look after myself. There was always somebody else who had my back. In my case, it was a 6-man team. In other cases, I think these days they're mostly 12-man teams. But we had 6-man and 8-man teams. And you always knew that everybody else had your back. And not only did they have your back when you were right, but they had your back when you were wrong, because they took you aside and you got smacked upside the head.
Yep.
And I think we're missing that today. We don't, especially in the digital world, we have kids. We almost have that as our moral compass. But if you don't have kids, or you don't bring the kids up right, or you don't have somebody to me. I have Jesse. If I get shit wrong, Jesse's going to wax load me. I mean, it's as simple as that. If my head gets too big or I get too cocky, I get wax loaded. And I think that buddy system is core. And we have it, the three of us have it, and I love it because we can bounce ideas off respectfully. We can talk, we can disagree respectfully, and we can discuss and go, okay, I actually get that viewpoint. Here's my thoughts and everything else. And I think that buddy system, I don't know how we bring it to the mass, but the same thing. It's like, okay, do I click on this shit? The buddy goes, yeah, you probably shouldn't do.
Right.
We don't have that buddy system.
Well, and that was kind of the crux of my point, right? Is we've lost, I remember my grandmother had a neighbor, and this neighbor knew every license plate, every color, every person, if you even got near the neighborhood, she had a dossier on you 8 pages thick. Okay. And we would make fun of this, right? Because she would call my grandma. Like, I'd come visit and she'd call my grandma, who's at your house right now? It's like,
yeah,
because that community came up with a sense of community, of watching out for one another, of calling out bad when it was bad, of pointing to the outsider that looked like they were causing trouble, right? Yeah. So, there is a need for us to get back to, and I hope that's what comes out of this. I hope we realize that we are all equal humans.
Yeah.
If we can agree on that, we can actually start to work on everything else. We can start to get into the morals and ethics aspects of our industry. We can start to get into what are the actual problems here. But it starts with just going, hey, wait a second, you're a human being, and therefore you deserve respect. You deserve to be treated equally. You deserve to have a voice. I mean, I get that there's a lot of history. I just don't get why this is hard. It's the golden rule, right? I'm going to go back to the golden rule.
Yeah. Treat
others how you want to be treated. Well, I don't want to be maced and tased and stood on, so I'm not doing that to others.
Well, and the challenge is that's your worldview. We have different worldviews.
It is.
Different worldviews, different perspectives, different, that's what makes it difficult is people are analog, right? They're all over the damn place. And, computers, the things that we work with so often are digital. They only do the shit that we tell it to do. People don't do that.
Right.
Let
me ask my wife.
Yeah. Right. And
just before
we got on, What's that?
No, you're good. I was actually just, God, how much of this stuff have I had? And what the hell proof is it? Holy crap.
Nice.
God, I'm like, holy crap. I need
Dr.
more
Pepper.
food. Yeah, you're smart.
I don't know about that.
No, this is good stuff. Whatever the hell it is. Okay, I hate you because you put wax on the top, but I love you because this is really good and it's going down way too smoothly.
That's from our neck of the woods, by the way.
That is, well, actually, no, this is Oregon. This is, I guess this is Oregon.
Oh, I thought
we're going to claim it anyways. I don't care what the bottle says. It's from our neck of the woods.
Isn't Surly here?
Yes, Surly Brewing Company.
Minnesota.
Oh, no, shit, you're Minnesota. I picked up a different one. I was thinking of Abyss. Abyss is Oregon. I had Abyss in my hand earlier.
Yeah, that's from here.
Okay, then do me a big favor. Can you go down and talk to them and have a bloody conversation and say, quit this damn wax rubbish?
All right.
I'll take you down to the brewery. You can tell them yourself.
Do you want me to do that ethically or unethically?
Oh, just take me. We'll just deal with it on our approach.
Right.
And then somebody can bail me out afterwards.
No. Don't worry. The brewery's in Minneapolis. You're not getting arrested for anything for at least 6 months.
You know,
sorry, I couldn't help it.
You know, the funny thing here is Kevin actually keeps bail money from me.
I have a bail bondsman. I used to, and I know him. He was a family friend. The same reason, because we used to do all the physical pen testing. And he's like, I got you covered if ever you get into that situation. I got you covered. I'm like, I love you, boys.
Yep. Kevin's got bail money. He's always had bail money for me.
So, this conversation has led me to choose. So when it's my turn again, I have a topic and I want to talk about.
It's your turn next Thursday.
I know. Yeah. But when it is, I want to talk about digital and analog disconnect.
Ooh,
I know. I will tune in and talk a lot about that one.
I've got some thoughts and ideas about being a biological entity trying to navigate a digital world.
We need a damn modem. I need to modulate, demodulate somehow the digital shit into the analog shit. And
I'm working on it. I'm working on it. I got you 10, 15 years and you can give up on the body.
Nice.
So
I can stop exercising?
I believe Chris is right. He's over there trying to capture consciousness.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm working with a bunch of folks on it. Yeah, we're 10, 15 years away from being able to do it. And then it gets really ethically back to the ethics and morals. Now we have to go, what is a human?
And what happens when I modify that human because you digitize that human?
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, we still can't get any further than password 123456.
Right.
I mean, it's a good password. It's really easy to remember.
So back to the question that you had asked earlier, Ryan, you don't know why it's so hard. There you go.
Well, and that is right. I mean, I think I asked that question kind of in a.
No, I know. I'm playing with you.
But there is, we'll unpack that later. But I do talk about this. Start thinking about it now because that's going to
be a fun one. I'm actually looking forward to that. That's going to be that's going to be totally cool. I'm looking. I will actually I'll inject as much as I normally do. Let's be perfectly honest.
Awesome. This is good. This is good.
All right, let's wrap it, guys.
All right. Any closing thoughts? Shaka bra.
Shaka bra. I got that tattoo right here.
Nice.
Well, it's hard to see it because this shirt is so tight because of my massive muscles, you see.
Oh, yeah, boy.
No, I go back to the golden rule. I don't think it gets any simpler than that. It's the golden rule, and it's simply look in the mirror. If you can look in the mirror and you can adhere to the golden rule, anything else is simple.
Truth.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, I enjoy this time. I hope the listeners do, but if they don't, frankly, I don't care because I just enjoy being able to talk with you guys. And if they get something out of it, great. If not, it's a ton of fun to do this.
Right on.
Thank you.
This is cathartic. Thank you very much, guys. Hugely appreciated. Everybody who is listening and who will listen, please stay safe.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah. And if you need anything like help, whatever, just let us know. We're very, very genuine in when we say we do want to make the world a better place. We do want to do whatever it is we can do. And if we can't help you, we probably know somebody who can. So reach out. And if you're struggling, with food, mental health, whatever it might be, let us know. We have a great degree between these three gentlemen that you're looking at right now. We have a vastly deep well of resources, and we would be honored to turn you on to some of them. So,
yep. Absolutely. Seconded.
So on the Security Shit Show, we actually give a shit.
We do give a shit. I give a shit.
It's kind of crazy. Yeah, we give a shit.
Yeah.
Boom.
I do want to affect change somehow or other.
That'll be our t-shirt. We'll get some t-shirts made. Security Shit Show. We give a shit.
We give a shit. I like that. That works.
All right, man. Have a good night, you guys.
All right, guys.
Take care, everybody.
Good night.